Hey everyone, ready to dive into something that could really impact your wallet? We're talking potential extra cash, maybe even seeing some unexpected deposits hitting your account sooner than you thought.
Sounds promising.
It really does.
Yeah.
Today we're looking at this video all about Elon Musk and his involvement with this thing called Doge.
Doge.
Yeah, the Department of Government Deficiency.
Okay.
And this video claims Doge is finding all these ways to save tons of money,
Right.
like in big government programs.
I like what?
Like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the big ones.
Right.
And get this, they even mention a Doge dividend that could give you an extra $5,000.
5,000?
5,000, pretty intriguing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So this video starts with Elon Musk himself. And he says he thinks there could be like $500 to $700 billion wasted every year in these programs.
Wow. That's a huge number.
It is.
And it shows just how big these programs really are. I mean, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, they're some of the biggest government programs in the U.S. We're talking about $3.2 trillion every year.
Wow.
So even if like a tiny percentage is wasted, that's still a ton of money.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's where this Doge dividend comes in. This video is claiming this extra $5,000 comes straight from the savings Doge is finding.
Yeah, they're saying Doge wants to save $2 trillion between January 2025 and July 4th, 2026.
Wow.
And get this, they claim they're already saving $4 billion every single day.
Wait, $4 billion a day? What can you even do with that much money in a day? Like, really?
I know, it's mind-blowing. Think about it. $4 billion is enough to build a bunch of new hospitals or schools every single day.
Yeah.
You could fund massive infrastructure projects all over the country.
Yeah.
If it's true, that kind of daily savings is pretty remarkable.
Okay, so we're talking a lot of money here. But what does it all mean for people actually using these programs?
Right.
The people who rely on Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid.
Right. That's the key question.
Could this actually mean more money for them?
The video says Doge is going after what they call incorrect payments.
Okay.
So basically, people getting benefits who shouldn't be.
So they're looking for errors and stuff, not like cutting people off who really need it.
Yeah, exactly. The video makes it clear that Doge isn't going after people who are legitimately receiving benefits. They seem to be focusing mostly on Social Security, not so much on Medicare and Medicaid.
Interesting. Before we get too deep into the weeds, though, I got to ask this Doge thing, the Department of Government Deficiency.
Yeah.
Is that like a real term? Or is this video just making it up?
That's a great question. Doge, in this context, seems like something the video creator came up with. I haven't heard it anywhere else.
Gotcha. Important to know the lingo. So it sounds like Doge is all about finding savings, but we don't really know how that'll translate into more money for people.
Exactly. The video mentions a potential $5,000 Doge dividend, but they don't explain how they got that number or how it'd be paid out.
Okay, so maybe hold off on that shopping spree for now. But hey, the idea of getting some extra cash, whether it's a direct payment or just our Social Security checks coming early, is still pretty exciting.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely raises some interesting questions about how these savings, if they happen, could change things for people and the economy.
Yeah, and speaking of the economy, it sounds like Doge isn't just looking at Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. They're targeting waste in other parts of the government, too.
That's right. The VA, the National Park Service, even the IRS. This video paints a pretty broad picture of Doge going after inefficiency everywhere. It's a bold vision, but we got to remember we only know about Doge from this one video.
True. So while it's exciting to think about getting more money and a more efficient government, it's probably smart to take this all with a grain of salt.
Yeah, for sure. This is just one source of information, and the real situation is probably way more complicated. But it's definitely a good starting point for a deep dive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. And it makes you wonder, what would all this potential savings mean for, like, the whole financial landscape?
Yeah.
You know, not just for individuals, but for the entire country.
That's a great point. We're talking maybe trillions of dollars saved. What could that do for things like government programs, infrastructure, maybe even paying down the national debt?
I know, the possibilities are huge. Imagine having all that extra money. It could mean more resources for essential services, better roads and bridges, maybe even lower taxes. Of course, this all depends on Doge actually hitting these ambitious goals.
Right. And let's not forget, we're talking about programs millions of people rely on: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. These are safety nets for seniors, people with disabilities, low-income families. Any changes, even if they're supposed to save money, have to be made really carefully so they don't accidentally hurt anyone.
Absolutely. It's not just about the numbers, it's about people's lives. We have to make sure any changes to make things more efficient don't end up hurting the people who depend on these programs.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential savings, what it could mean for the government, the economy, but let's get back to what our listeners probably care about most, their wallets. This video mentions this $5,000 Doge dividend, but it's pretty vague on the details. Do we have any idea how realistic that number is? Like, how would it even be paid out?
Honestly, the video doesn't really say. It's not clear how they came up with that $5,000 figure or what system would be used to get any savings to individuals.
So maybe don't book that dream vacation just yet. But even if that specific number is a long shot, the idea of getting some extra cash, whether it's a direct payment or maybe our Social Security checks coming a little early, that's still pretty exciting to think about.
It is, and it shows how important it is to stay informed about this stuff. Even in complicated areas like government spending, there's always the possibility of positive change that could help people. It's all about staying involved and holding those in power accountable.
That's so important. Knowledge is power, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more we know about these programs and how they work, the better we can advocate for changes that benefit everyone.
Absolutely. And that's what makes these deep dives so valuable. They're a way to explore complex issues, ask the tough questions, and learn how to be more informed citizens.
So to recap, we have this interesting video claiming Doge, led by Elon Musk, is on its way to finding huge savings in government programs, which could mean some kind of financial benefit for individuals. It's too early to tell what that benefit might be or if it'll even happen, but it's definitely an interesting possibility.
It is, and it reminds us that things are always changing, especially when it comes to government policy and finances. What seems impossible today might be totally normal tomorrow.
That's a great point. It leads to a final thought-provoking question for our listeners. What can you do today to be more financially prepared? Not just for potential windfalls like this, but for any unexpected changes or opportunities that might come up.
That's a good question to think about. As we've seen in this deep dive, the financial landscape is always shifting. The better prepared we are, the better we can handle those changes, whatever they might be.
Very true. It's all about being proactive and taking control of our financial futures. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's go back and look a little closer at Social Security. For anyone who isn't totally familiar with how it works, let's do a quick overview.
Great idea. Social Security is a fundamental program in the U.S. It provides a really important safety net for millions of retirees, people with disabilities, and their families. It's funded through payroll taxes, meaning that people working now are contributing to the system, which then pays benefits to people receiving them now.
That's a great overview. Yeah. And it shows how connected this whole system is. People working now are supporting the people getting benefits now, and they expect to get benefits themselves when they retire.
Exactly. It's like a social contract, a promise between generations. And that's why we got to be super careful when talking about changing it. We have to think about what it means for the long term.
You're right. We can't just focus on saving money right now. We got to think about keeping these programs strong for the future.
Yeah, it's a balancing act,
Yeah.
making sure the system can still pay out benefits to future generations while also taking care of the people who need it today.
Okay, so we've talked about Doge, Elon Musk, and all this potential for saving money in government programs. We've talked about maybe getting bigger payments and what that could mean for everyone. But I want to go back to something you said earlier about the human side of all this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers and forget that we're talking about real people's lives.
Exactly. These programs aren't just lines in a budget. They're a lifeline for so many Americans, our parents, grandparents, neighbors, friends.
Right. And that's why any talk about changing these programs has to start with empathy. We have to really understand how these changes could affect people in the real world.
So true. Any efforts to make things more efficient can't hurt the people who depend on these programs.
Right, and that's why it's so important to stay informed and involved. These programs affect all of us, whether directly or indirectly. It's our job as citizens to understand how they work, what problems they face, and how changes could affect us and the people around us.
I completely agree. We can't just sit around and wait for things to happen. We have to be part of the conversation, ask questions, speak up about our concerns, and push for solutions that work for everyone.
It's about being informed, being involved, and knowing that we have a say. We all have a stake in how this turns out, and our voices matter.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The world of money is always changing, and the more we understand about it, the better we can handle those changes and build a better financial future for ourselves and our communities.
And remember, even though things are complicated and uncertain, there's always a chance for things to get better. It's up to all of us to make that happen.